Hey, welcome to a deep dive into something.
Yeah.
We all do, but
Yeah.
might not be doing so well.
Mm.
Breathing. You've been curious about how breathing techniques can actually impact your health and well-being, especially after that recent bout with pneumonia and your doctor suggesting a breathing class?
Oh, wow.
We've got some excerpts from James Nestor's book, Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art,
Okay.
and your notes to guide us.
Great.
So let's jump in.
Sounds like you're ready to uncover some secrets about something most of us take for granted.
Yeah,
Nestor's book is a great place to start.
I'm ready to be surprised.
Yeah.
So to kick things off,
Okay.
can we talk about the simple act of breathing?
Sure.
Nestor emphasizes the role of the nose, and it's honestly made me rethink how I've been breathing my whole life.
It's amazing how much we underestimate our noses.
Yeah.
They're not just there for smelling.
Right.
Think of them as high-tech filters,
Okay.
warming and humidifying the air we breathe. Plus, they produce nitric oxide, a little something that helps us absorb oxygen more efficiently.
Nitric oxide. Okay, that definitely sounds more important than just taking in air.
It is.
I remember that Stanford experiment I mentioned where my nose was completely blocked for 10 days.
Oh, wow.
Talk about feeling suffocated.
That experiment really highlights
Yeah.
how crucial nasal breathing is.
Right.
But to take it a step further, think about the sheer scale of breathing.
Okay.
Each inhale brings in 25 sextillion molecules.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And nitric oxide plays a vital role in all of this, impacting our cardiovascular health
Yeah.
and even our immune system.
Wow, that puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize that my doctor's advice about breathing might have been more profound than I initially thought.
It's easy to overlook the simple stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of overlooked, Nestor has this concept of disevolution.
Okay.
The idea that some evolutionary adaptations, while initially beneficial for survival,
Right.
are now causing problems with our breathing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
This evolution, you're going to have to break that down for me.
Okay.
How can evolution mess up something as basic as breathing?
Well, as humans evolved, our skulls became more compact,
Okay.
likely due to changes in diet and lifestyle.
Okay.
And guess what?
What?
Smaller mouths often mean more obstructed airways.
Oh.
Dr. Mariana Evans, an orthodontist,
Okay.
studied ancient and modern skulls and found that those wide nasal apertures our ancestors had are much rarer today.
So we're basically victims of our own evolutionary success.
Kind of.
That's wired.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this brings us to the battle of the breaths.
Okay.
Mouth breathing versus nasal breathing.
Right.
Nestor makes a strong case for nasal breathing.
Okay.
And honestly, after that Stanford experiment, I'm inclined to agree with him.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right.
Why is mouth breathing the bad guy in this story?
Think about all the problems associated with mouth breathing.
Okay.
Snoring, sleep apnea, and even poor facial development in children.
Oh, wow.
It's not just about getting enough air.
Yeah.
It's about how we get it.
Right.
Remember George Catlin,
Mm-hmm.
the painter Nestor mentions?
Okay.
He had chronic respiratory issues,
Wow.
but cured himself simply by consciously switching to nasal breathing.
Wait, just by switching how he breathed?
Yeah.
What was the science behind his transformation?
Well,
Did it have something to do with that nitric oxide we talked about?
you got it.
Uh-huh.
Nasal breathing is like a nitric oxide booster,
Uh-huh.
leading to better oxygen absorption.
Right.
Plus, it allows for better filtration and humidification of the air.
Okay.
There's also a fascinating case study in Nestor's book about Gigi,
Okay.
a young girl whose health drastically improved after regaining the ability to breathe through her nose.
These stories are incredible.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel a bit self-conscious about how I've been breathing my whole life.
Don't worry, we're all learning here.
Yeah.
And Nestor's book doesn't stop at inhalation. He emphasizes the often overlooked importance of exhalation.
So it's not just about what we take in,
Right.
but how we let it go.
Exactly.
That makes sense, but what's the big deal about exhaling fully?
Well, think of your diaphragm,
Okay.
that big muscle under your lungs,
Right.
as the engine of your breathing.
Uh-huh.
A full exhalation helps power the thoracic pump, which enhances blood circulation and oxygen delivery throughout your body.
Okay.
It's like giving your system a boost.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So a good exhale is kind of like squeezing all the good stuff out of our breath.
that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And this leads us to Carl Stuff,
Okay.
a pioneer in breathing techniques who focused on the power of the exhale.
Okay.
His methods even helped emphysema patients regain lung function.
Wow.
I know you mentioned working with Lynn Martin,
Yeah.
Stuff's student,
Right.
on some breathing exercises.
Uh-huh.
How do those feel?
They were amazing.
Oh, good.
They felt like a reset for my entire body.
That's great.
But now, for a real curveball.
Okay.
Nestor brings up a pretty controversial idea about carbon dioxide.
Oh,
We usually think of it as a waste product,
right.
something to get rid of.
Yeah.
But apparently, it plays a vital role in oxygen delivery and overall well-being.
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It challenges the common misconception
Ah.
that carbon dioxide is just something we need to expel.
Right.
Ready to have your mind blown.
Hit me with it.
Okay.
How can carbon dioxide, the thing we're always trying to breathe out, actually be good for us?
Well, it all comes down to the Bohr effect.
Really?
Essentially, carbon dioxide levels influence how hemoglobin,
Okay.
the protein that carries oxygen in our blood,
Right.
releases that oxygen to our cells.
Okay.
The more carbon dioxide we have, the more efficiently our body can use the oxygen we breathe in.
So more CO2 means more oxygen getting where it needs to go. That's completely counterintuitive.
I know. It's fascinating how much we're still learning about the nuances of our own bodies.
Right.
And this brings us to the concept of controlled hypoventilation, or breathing less.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Breathing less on purpose. That sounds almost dangerous.
It definitely goes against everything we've been taught about breathing right.
Yeah.
But this concept has been around for a while,
Okay.
pioneered by Konstantin Buteyko, who treated various chronic illnesses by getting people to reduce their breathing volume.
So the idea is that by intentionally breathing less,
Yeah.
we increase carbon dioxide levels and actually improve oxygen utilization.
Exactly.
Wow.
And there's intriguing evidence to support this.
Okay.
Athletes like Emil Zatopek,
Okay.
the legendary Czech runner,
Right.
used breath-holding techniques for better performance.
Wow.
Even the U.S. Olympic swim team used breath restriction in their training, leading to record-breaking results.
That's incredible.
You mentioned trying hypoventilation training yourself, right?
Yeah, I gave it a shot.
I go.
But I'll admit it was tough. That feeling of air hunger is hard to overcome.
I bet.
It's definitely something you have to mentally prepare for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone,
Right.
but the potential benefits are worth exploring.
Okay.
This all ties back to the intricate connection between breathing and our bodies.
Right.
A connection that extends even to our nervous system.
Okay, let's talk about that.
All right.
Nestor dives into how different breathing patterns can trigger either stress responses or relaxation.
Right.
And I'm really curious to learn more about that, especially given my history with pneumonia and how it affected my breathing.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Breathing is like a direct line to our autonomic nervous system,
Okay.
which controls things like our heart rate, digestion, and even our immune response.
So if we learn to consciously change our breathing, could we actually influence how our bodies react to stress or even illness?
Exactly.
Wow.
There are some pretty extreme examples of this, like tumo breathing,
Okay.
practiced by Tibetan monks,
All right.
and holotropic breathwork,
Okay.
both of which can induce altered states of consciousness and potentially influence the immune system.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So we've gone from the basics of breathing through our noses to potentially controlling our immune systems.
Yeah.
This deep dive is blowing my mind.
And we're just getting started.
Wow.
Before we move on, I'm curious,
Uh-huh.
what's resonating most with you so far?
Honestly, it's the sheer power of something as simple as breathing.
I agree.
It's like this hidden resource we all have.
Yeah.
And we can actually learn to harness it
Uh-huh.
to optimize our health and well-being.
It's like unlocking a superpower we never knew we had,
Right.
but we've only scratched the surface.
Okay.
There's a whole other layer to explore,
Hmm.
the connection between breathing and our mental and emotional states. Let's dive into that.
Okay. Okay. I'm really intrigued by this connection between breathing and our mental and emotional well-being,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to anxiety and fear. After all, I did just have pneumonia, and I know how much that experience affected my breathing and my overall mental state.
That's a great point. Remember how we talked about that feeling of breathlessness you
Yeah.
get when you're anxious or scared?
Right.
Well, it turns out that connection between breathing and our emotions is a two-way street.
So it's not just that our emotions affect our breathing,
Uh-huh.
but our breathing can actually influence how we feel.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Nestor dives into this by highlighting the amygdala,
Yeah.
a part of our brain that processes fear.
Right.
It turns out it's closely linked to our breathing patterns.
So when the amygdala goes into overdrive because we're stressed or anxious,
Yeah.
our breathing goes haywire too.
Yeah.
That seems to make sense based on my own experiences.
You're spot on. But here's the key takeaway.
Okay.
By consciously changing our breathing,
Uh-huh.
we can potentially calm the amygdala down. It's like having a built-in anxiety-soothing mechanism.
That would be amazing.
Nestor talks about Dr. Feinstein's research on carbon dioxide therapy,
Okay.
which I know you've tried, as a way to help regulate the brain's fear response.
Yeah, I was hesitant at first. I mean, who wants to inhale a gas we're usually trying to get rid of?
Right.
But it was surprisingly calming. Although I have to admit that initial fear response was pretty intense.
That's totally understandable. It's natural to be apprehensive about something that seems so counterintuitive.
Right.
But the research is fascinating.
Yeah.
It suggests that controlled exposure to higher levels of CO2 can act as a reset button for the brain,
Okay.
helping to break the cycle of anxiety.
So in a way, it's like tricking our brains into feeling calmer by using our breath. I'm beginning to understand why my doctor thought a breathing class would be helpful, especially given how anxious I was after my pneumonia.
It's amazing how much potential there is in something we do so automatically.
Yeah.
And what's even more remarkable is that these techniques aren't new.
Right.
They've been around for centuries,
Oh,
often as part of ancient wisdom traditions.
that's where the bridge between ancient breathing practices and modern science comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about the yogic concept of prana, the vital life force that's closely tied to the breath.
That's a great connection to make. Yogis have been using pranayama or breath control
Right.
for millennia to enhance their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
Wow.
And Nestor's book shares some pretty mind-blowing stories about yogis with extraordinary breath control. Remember Swami Rama?
Oh, yeah. The one who could control his heart rate and body temperature through breathwork?
Yes.
That's some serious breath control.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine having that level of mastery over my body.
It's incredible, right?
It is.
He completely baffled scientists with his abilities,
Yeah.
challenging their understanding of what was humanly possible.
Wow.
Even though they couldn't explain it with their instruments, they
Right.
couldn't deny what they were witnessing.
Right.
It's like ancient wisdom meeting modern science head on.
It really makes you wonder, are there any scientific theories that might explain these seemingly superhuman feats?
There are some intriguing possibilities.
Okay.
One that stands out is Albert Szent-György's theory of electron excitability.
Okay.
It's a complex concept,
Okay.
but essentially he suggested that the breath we take interacts with our bodies on a subatomic level,
Wow.
influencing the flow of energy within our cells.
So breathing could be affecting us on a much deeper level than we ever imagined.
Mhm.
It's not just about oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. It's about influencing the very energy that makes us tick.
That's the idea.
That's incredible.
It might explain how practices like pranayama can have such profound effects on our overall well-being. Even if the exact mechanisms are still being explored,
Right.
the evidence of breathing's power is undeniable.
It's like we're rediscovering this lost art of breathing,
Yeah.
and it has the potential to revolutionize how we approach our health and well-being.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the simplest things can have the most profound impact. We don't need fancy equipment or expensive medications. We just need to learn to breathe consciously and intentionally. It's a tool we all have access to.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey so far. We've covered the mechanics of breathing, its impact on our physical and mental health,
Yeah.
and we've even touched on some mind-bending scientific theories.
Yeah.
It all stemmed from my curiosity about breathing techniques after having pneumonia.
It's been fascinating to explore these concepts with you.
Yeah.
We've seen how breathing can improve sleep,
Right.
boost athletic performance, enhance mental well-being, and potentially even influence our immune system.
I'm starting to see why my doctor suggested that breathing class.
Yeah.
It's not just about recovering from an illness like pneumonia, it's about tapping into a whole new level of well-being.
It's a simple yet powerful tool that we often take for granted. But by learning to use it consciously,
Right.
we can unlock a world of potential benefits. It's like breathing is the key to unlocking our full human potential.
I love that.
Uh.
And it makes me wonder if something as simple as breathing can have such a profound impact. What other hidden potentials are we overlooking?
That's a thought-provoking question to ponder. Perhaps there's a whole universe of untapped potential within us just waiting to be discovered.
Maybe the key is simply to breathe and pay attention. Who knows what we might find? I'm eager to keep exploring these ideas and see where they lead.
That's the spirit. The journey of discovery is just beginning.
I like that.
And remember, Nestor's book has an appendix filled with various breathing techniques for different purposes.
Bro,
Experiment and see what works best for you.
I definitely plan to. I'm feeling inspired to put all this knowledge into practice. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what this all means for the average person.
Yeah,
What's the key takeaway message here?
that's a great question.
Hmm.
I think the most important takeaway is that conscious breathing is a powerful tool for self-care and self-healing.
Yeah,
It's something we can do anytime, anywhere.
right.
And it costs nothing. By simply paying attention to our breath, by learning to breathe a little slower, a
I've
little
had it.
deeper, a little more consciously. Okay.
We can make a significant difference in our overall health and well-being.
Self-care and self-healing through breathing.
I like that.
It's like taking back control of something so fundamental to our existence.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
about reclaiming the power of our breath and using it to live healthier, happier, and more fulfilling lives.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I've gone from thinking about breathing as just a basic bodily function
Right.
to seeing it as a powerful tool for self-discovery and transformation.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. Remember, the lost art of breathing is waiting to be rediscovered.
Yeah.
And within each breath lies the potential for a healthier, happier, and more fulfilling life.
You know, it's funny how we started this deep dive with my curiosity about breathing techniques after my pneumonia.
Yeah.
I thought it would be all about relaxation and meditation,
Right.
but we've gone so much deeper exploring the science, the ancient practices, and the connection to our nervous system.
Uh-huh.
We even talked about the potential for self-healing through breathing.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. It really is. Breathing is so much more than just a bodily function.
Yeah.
It's this incredible resource that we often take for granted.
Right.
But we've covered a lot of theoretical ground.
Okay.
Now I think it's time to get practical.
Okay.
How can we actually incorporate these techniques into our daily lives?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the concepts, but it's another to actually put them into practice.
Right.
Where do we even begin?
Well, remember those resonant breathing exercises we discussed?
Yeah?
The ones that bring your heart, lungs, and circulation into a state of coherence?
Uh,
Those are essential for overall well-being and incredibly simple to do.
yeah. Those sounded pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You mentioned they were crucial for overall well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they only take a few minutes. Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
Sit up straight, relax your shoulders and belly, and exhale gently.
Okay.
Then inhale softly for about 5.5 seconds, expanding your belly as air fills the bottom of your lungs. Without pausing, exhale softly for another 5.5 seconds, bringing your belly in as your lungs empty.
Okay.
Each breath should feel like a complete circle.
So it's like a smooth wave-like breath in and out.
Exactly. Repeat that cycle at least 10 times more if you can.
Okay.
It's a great way to calm your nervous system and promote relaxation.
Yeah.
You can do it anytime, anywhere.
I'm definitely going to try that.
Great.
It sounds like something I could easily incorporate into my daily routine, especially after a stressful day.
Er.
What about those Buteyko techniques we talked about?
Yeah,
The ones that involve breathing less. Those seemed a bit more challenging.
they can be, but they're also incredibly effective, especially for managing conditions like asthma and anxiety.
Yeah.
Remember the control pause technique?
Oh, yeah. You exhale gently and hold your breath until you feel the first definite desire to breathe.
Right, that's your control pause. The longer you can comfortably hold your breath,
Okay.
the better your breathing volume. You can use that measurement to practice mini breath holds throughout the day, gradually increasing your tolerance for carbon dioxide.
So it's like a workout for our lungs, helping them adapt to different levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
Exactly. It helps your body become more efficient at using oxygen and can have a range of benefits for your overall health.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Mhm.
A lot of these techniques involve pushing ourselves a little bit outside of our comfort zones, whether it's holding our breath or trying something like tumo breathing.
You're absolutely right. It's about expanding our capacity and resilience, both physically and mentally. Who knows what we might discover about ourselves along the way?
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities.
Mm.
It feels like we're uncovering this hidden potential within us just by learning to breathe differently.
Hmm.
But I have to ask, where do we go from here? What's the next step on this journey of breath exploration?
The most important thing is to keep exploring. Experiment with the techniques we've discussed. See what resonates with you, what feels good in your body. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's all about finding what works for you and making it a part of your life.
That's great advice. I'm feeling inspired to incorporate these breathing practices into my daily routine. I'm curious to see how they'll affect my physical and mental well-being in the long run, especially after my experience with pneumonia.
I'm excited for you to continue this journey of discovery. Remember, the breath is always with you. It's a powerful tool for self-care and self-healing that you can access anytime, anywhere.
This deep dive has truly been a revelation. I've gone from thinking about breathing as just a basic bodily function to seeing it as a gateway to a healthier, happier, and more fulfilling life. Thank you so much for guiding me through this incredible exploration.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. Remember, the power to transform your life is within each breath. Keep breathing, keep exploring, and keep discovering.